Hello and welcome to the late review. This is Sudhir Srinivasan and this week I shall be reviewing Avengers Endgame. Now first up I must warn you, any sort of review about Endgame, and this is applicable to you especially if you haven't watched the film yet, any sort of review about it is going to be littered with spoilers as insignificant as they may be. This is because Avengers Endgame is that sort of film. It does a lot of things, the film. I mean, there's a lot of brave redesigning of some beloved characters. It taps into a lot of nostalgia on account of its central device. And really, it's impossible to review this film without mentioning at least one or two of these grand schemes. And during the year and a half that they've been readying this film for us, there's been a lot of secrecy concerning what's been going on. Even in the interviews, they've been very cautious about what they're talking about. Even if I were to carry on with this review with much caution, in a way, I'm sort of like Thanos here. I am going to be wiping away some of your surprises, even if not half of it. So if you want to watch the film unpolluted with any sort of information about it, you know exactly what to do right now. And now that we are away with a rather lengthy disclaimer, now that it's out of the way, let me tell you my favorite aspect of this film. It's not its lavish war sequence, it's not its emotional gravitas, it's not the beautiful way in which it marries three different genres of filmmaking. Although all of these certainly are quite impressive. The one aspect of this film that really appealed to me is its fundamental lack of urgency. It's a film that brings to conclusion more than 10 years of Marvel films. So you would be forgiven for expecting it to start with a crash and bang immediately and go into fifth gear immediately. But you couldn't be more wrong. It's definitely not war at the outset. Although you could argue that it's war of a different variety. This war is more internal. It's a war fought less collectively than it is individually. It's a war fought less publicly than it's very privately, and you can see this in a lot of characters and how they're trying to cope with what happened in the end of last film when half of all life got wiped out by Thanos' infamous snap. So the next time somebody makes a condescending comment about the frivolity of such superhero films, show them this film, after you show them Logan, of course. There's something we learned from Infinity War. It is that the Russo brothers are very adept at showing emotional strength. I mean, if they can imbue an antagonist like Thanos with such emotional strength concerning his relationship with Gamora, you can only imagine what they're going to do with the rest of some of these beloved characters. I really liked how they show great restraint in milking these characters and their appeal for instant gratification, you know, the sort of moments that would immediately have us applaud. Very ordinary introduction scenes that many of these extraordinary characters get. Be it the opening scene of Iron Man when he and Nebula are playing a game while awaiting their death. Or later shortly when sort of Captain America is now in a group therapy meeting trying to reconcile with what's gone on and trying to bond with a lot of people who are all trying desperately to get back to normalcy. Meanwhile, Bruce Banner / Hulk has gone through a transformation himself, and Thor has gone through a very different sort of transformation. I don't want to spoil it for you, but let's just say he's no pirate angel anymore. And I think these are terrific ideas to rid you of the monotony of having these characters talk and behave the way we've always cheered them for. We can comfortably say that Endgame is the largest assembling of superheroes seen in a Marvel film so far. Towards the end, when Captain America says, "Avengers, assemble," wow, that moment is pure gold. All the significant and sort of fringe characters we've seen along the way, they all find a place in this film. And some characters like Nebula or Ant-Man even, now the importance that they get in this film is sort of way more than they've had to deal with so far. In fact, there's even a small inside joke at the beginning of the film when people approach Hulk for an autograph, but they don't quite do the same for Ant-Man. And of course, now I'm going to reveal the central conceit of this film, which is time travel. And this idea itself comes from Ant-Man. So that sort of stresses upon the importance of this character in this film. So when you think about it, this is a film that has time travel. This is a heist film as well. And there are superheroes. What a blockbuster idea to finish this phase of MCU. What the Russo brothers do very ingeniously with this time travel is they tap into all the nostalgia of the previous Marvel films. So, I mean, three films feature very importantly in Endgame. You have the Guardians of the Galaxy, you have the first Avengers film, and you have Thor, the Dark World also playing a big part in this film. This isn't just a case of simply cashing in on nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. They're also trying to sort of recreate some of these moments so as to create new material of it. For instance, that fan favorite moment of all the Avengers assembling at the end of the first Avengers film, I very much doubt you're going to be able to see that scene in the same way anymore. This time travel thing also looks to try and rectify some of the knots that have forever been plaguing the minds of some of these characters. So you have the Peggy Captain America angle, you have the relationship between Iron Man and his father, you have the relationship between Thor and his mother, and of course the relationship concerning Nebula and her father Thanos. This film is at once an ode to all these other films that we've cherished, while being fiercely its own film. I think this is nothing short of a stupendous achievement in trying to wrap up this entire phase of MCU. And this film also serves as a treasure trove for some of you who remember the events of the previous films in great detail. I read that a lot of people have tried to watch all the 20-odd films that have preceded Endgame in preparation for the release of this film. And it seems to me on some level that the Russo brothers sort of tip their hats off for all these fans. There are so many references, there are so many little moments, there are so many inspirations from previous films. There are so many recreations of previous scenes from previous films. And of course, in the best of moments, an old song concerning Captain America and Peggy sort of gets used very beautifully in this film. As I said, I really love the tenderness that's at the heart of Endgame. Be it when Captain America throws a longing stare at Peggy, or Thor desperately trying to save his mother, or Iron Man sort of willing to let go of his time with his child to save another one, and I'm of course referring to Peter Parker. As you can see, there's a lot at stake in this film. Infinity War really set up this film well. That is why the tone of this film is not one of celebration, it's one of meditation. Sort of like Thanos after he snaps his fingers and wipes away half of our life. Despite all this, I think there's at least one death in this film that you don't quite feel as strongly about as you probably should have. But I don't blame the Russo brothers as much as I blame the underdevelopment of these characters across all these films we've seen so far. So what about the central conceit of this film, you ask? What about the time travel? How is it? It's fun, it's nostalgic, it's pretty cleverly done. But I think the jury is out on the rules that are observed insofar as how time travel gets used in this film. The film through Hulk suggests that anytime you tinker with the past, you sort of create divergent, different, unique timelines. And as always, whenever the topic of time travel gets broached, the question of sort of paradoxes come into play as well. So don't be surprised at all if over the next few days you see a lot of analysis about how time travel was used. Some defending it, some sort of accusing it of misusing the concept. But hey, it's all part of the fun of watching these time travel films. I think a large part of the enjoyment of this genre concerns all these debates around it. I mean, it's been 10 years since the Marvel films came out, and nobody even imagined that, they would grow to such a scale. Lots of transformation has happened. Even in terms of how all these characters have evolved. You have Iron Man who moves from a lot of self-interest to selflessness. You have a Captain America who's always been selfless, but who probably gets a chance to, sort of cater to his own desires and what he wants from life. Ultimately, it's about characters sort of taking the best out of each other and sort of drawing one's positives and letting go of the negatives. Ultimately, it's all about the balance, isn't it? As Thanos so dearly likes to keep saying. What I found interesting about Endgame, much like I did with Infinity War, is the film continues to resist the blatant vilification of Thanos. As he sits there with an existential sadness almost, prepared to let go of anybody he loves, prepared to undergo great sacrifice to follow his own ideals. It's hard not to feel a sense of empathy for him on some level, even if he's a mass murderer. I think that's why at the start of the film you sort of get get a vibe that maybe the world is better off for what he's done. You know, there's a dialogue between two important characters, and one person says that now you can finally spot the dolphins, the water has become cleaner. But of course, I mean, it's mass murder and you cannot condone it no matter what it does for the health of the natural world. The next phase of MCU will come up with its own set of characters, with its own set of challenges, and of course with its own set of villains, as Thanos keeps saying is inevitable. For the moment though, let's savor this largely satisfying conclusion to all these films, and much credit to the Russo brothers for what they've done with the past two films. It's been a long time since these films started, and no wonder that in a very crucial scene at the very end of this film, that's the song Captain America dances to. It's been a long time. And I think many of you will be saying the same about this review as well. This is my review of Avengers Endgame. This is Sudhir Srinivasan, and this is my late review. Thank you for watching it. If you have any comments, do leave them. If you like this video, like it. If you particularly like this video, do share it. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much.